So after that bombshell paper from Etsy the other day on the ultimate guide to SEO, what's changed? What's different? What do we need to think about? Let's talk about that. So the very first thing I want to say about this is don't panic. When I saw this paper, I was super excited. I thought to myself, this is great. Etsy's giving us some best practices, some tips and tricks to get us through in the run up to the Christmas period. And then I went online and everyone's panicking, thinking there's been a massive change. There hasn't been a massive change. As Etsy tells us in the paper, SEO changes to the algorithm happen all the time. This paper is just rounding up and telling us what is the best practices for right now. It's not telling us massive changes have happened. Yeah, there are some changes that have happened. They didn't happen yesterday. They didn't happen on Wednesday. There are things that have been happening over time, and this paper is just letting us know. And it's fantastic they're doing this. Honestly, when they've made changes in the way back past, in 2010, when they made the biggest changes of all, do you know what they told us about it? Nothing. We were left flailing in the dark. So this is fantastic. They're helping us out and telling us what's going on. Search engine algorithms change all the time. Even if Etsy did nothing, Google changes all the time. How shoppers, how people use the internet changes all the time. So things will change all the time. So as Etsy says, you've got to constantly be looking at your statistics. You've got to be constantly tweaking and changing and optimizing and making sure what you were doing before is still working now. That is the most important best practice. Make sure it's still working. So right now when you read this paper, do not knee-jerk. Don't go and think to yourself, oh no, I've got 300 listings, I've got to change all my listings. Do not knee-jerk and make changes. Don't change things that are working. What you need to do is be mindful of what they're telling you in these best practices. Be mindful of this when you're creating new listings and also when you're updating listings that aren't working so well. If your listings are working, don't touch them. And also don't spend your energy looking at other people or even looking at your own listings and going, but these are selling loads, but these are doing really well, these are ranking, and they're not following the best practices. Why is that? Best practices, SEO, all these things are a help. They're the best practices. They give the little people like you and me that little foot up. They give Etsy the information that it needs to think about what it wants to rank. But there are far more important factors. If something's selling fantastically, it doesn't really matter how bad the SEO is. If it's making lots of money, then it's going to be found, it's going to be seen, it's going to be boosted. So don't spend your time worrying about why other people are ranking. Have a look, certainly, see if you can get ideas from them. But if someone has a massive following on, say, has a massive Facebook fan page and people are coming from there, then they're going to rank well because they have this bigger audience. They have an advantage that we don't. So SEO and best practices is our little foot in the door. And also bear in mind, even with these best practices, it is just best practices. What works for every individual shop, every item, and every day of the week, every buyer is different. We don't all, when you're going shopping, when you're going buying, we don't all buy the same thing. We're not attracted to the same thing. We don't like the same pictures. So what works for one person, for what works for one item, might not work for everybody else. Again, these are just best practices. They're not carved in stone. And many of these things on these paper are not changes. They're things that have been around for ages. Some of them are just great advice. And some of them we've been talking about for quite a while now. And why did I know these changes were coming up? It's simple. These are things that Google have implemented. Google's the biggest search engine on the planet. It's got all the money to find out what works. So if Google does something, then other search engines are likely to follow if it works. So Google best practices are really important to learn from. So what information can we take from this? Firstly, the information that Etsy is taking, reading from our shops, are titles, tags, but also attributes and categories. It takes information. These are like tags as well. So this is important information to make sure that we include in our listings. However, Etsy's told us now that it's not taking the information from our description, but other search engines like Google do. So make sure your description is, as we've talked about in the past, interesting to customers, appealing to customers, written for a person to read, but also contains the keywords because it doesn't hurt to get spotted by Google. And what Etsy is telling us, the factors it uses to decide if it wants to rank us. Number 1, relevancy. So this hasn't changed. The most exact match your titles and tags are to what people are searching for, like purple baby beanie hat instead of purple hat, the more likely you are to be found. Second point is listing quality. These are factors that Etsy is gathering over time. So when you first put up a listing, it doesn't have any details from this, so it gives you a little boost in the rankings for your keywords and then decides how good your listing is based on the interaction of the customer. So if a customer searches for a term, sees your item, clicks on it and buys it, you're far more likely to get boosted up in the rankings. We spoke about this before, it's nothing new. Etsy has to make money, so the items it wants to put to the top of search are the items that are most likely to sell. It also wants buyers to keep coming back. A buyer wants to use search because it gives them what it's looking for, not the people who've learnt to game the system the most. So if you think of this sale velocity, for every 1,000 views you get, how many sales do you get? Or from Etsy's point of view, even more important, for every 1,000 impressions, for every time they show your listing on that search page, how likely is your item to sell? And then compare that to the other people that are going to be on this search ranking. How much more money is your item going to make Etsy than someone else? If you're going to make them more money, then you're more likely to be at the top of the search rankings. Factor number 3, recency. They're including recency into the factor for ranking, but they also included it into the listing quality. So you do very much still get a boost when you create a new listing. It doesn't have a history of people buying from it. It doesn't have any views because it's new. So it's going to get a wee boost up into the rankings. And so does when you renew a listing. And even more importantly, when you sell a listing and it renews, then that's a new listing that has a fantastic history of a lot of sales conversion. So if you have an item that you can make more of, then make sure that you have a listing when it sells, you're renewing it. Then this is really going to give Etsy lots of good factors into this listing, lots of good positive feedback. Factor number 4, customer and market experience. This is your shop. This is things like your shop policies, all the things you can fill in for yourself. It also includes your customer experience with you. So how's your feedback? Do you ship on time? Have you got any cases open against you? So just make sure, fill in everything in your shop and make sure and have the best customer experience for your customers as well. And factor number 5, this one is a new one, shipping price. So having a lower shipping price will boost you up the rankings a little bit. Etsy is saying and has discovered that shoppers prefer a lower shipping price or free shipping. So if everything else is the same on 2 listings, all things considered, which it's unlikely that everything will be the same, but if 2 listings were exactly the same apart from a shipping price, then what's going to happen is the one with the lower or free shipping will get boosted up the rankings a little bit. So we have these 5 factors that Etsy's taken into account on where to rank our items. What it's not telling us is what's most important, what is the most weighted, and that is because how factors are weighted is something that's constantly being tweaked. So we don't want to knee-jerk and go, oh no, we have to offer free shipping, or focus in on any one of the other things. What we need to do is experiment. There are things we can and should be doing, working on the best SEO practices, making sure that our titles and tags are as descriptive as they possibly can be. For tags that are good, use something like Etsy Rank to find out how competitive your tags are, to see if you're going to be able to rank for these things. And as it's a new one, experiment with your shipping price. Look at the competition. What is their shipping like? Now, Etsy is saying we're not giving free shipping. You're eating the shipping price into your listing. You're increasing your listing price and taking it out of the shipping price, which does seem a bit of a dodgy thing to do, but that's what they're now recommending because that's what buyers prefer. So look at what you can do to your shipping prices. Now, this is most important in top-end, expensive items. People are looking for free shipping if they spend over a certain amount. So you can experiment with this with coupon codes in your shop, or just making your high-end items free shipping and see if that makes a difference. Obviously, if you're selling a low-cost badge or something, a pin, then people expect to pay the small amount for shipping. They don't want to see the higher price. But for a high-end product, they're expecting free shipping, so look into that. Also, if you make listings of multiples, rather than expect a person to buy one lip salve, one chapstick several times, give them an option to buy 3 chapsticks in one listing, 5 chapsticks, 2 chapsticks, a shampoo and a body wash. Give them gift packages, and that way if they buy a larger grouping of listings, they can get a slight discount for the grouping and also free shipping. And this way you're upscaling a much larger sale, you're making more money, it's much easier, you're only dealing with one customer, and they're getting the free shipping that they're looking for. And also this adds into another thing that Etsy is telling us to do: diversify our listings and tags. Don't just settle on the same tags and repeat them again and again and again. Search engines don't like things that look the same anyway. But also, the more listings you have, the more chance you've got to be found. So if you're doing not just one chapstick, but 1 chapstick, 2 chapsticks, 4 chapsticks, a gift set with these different things, a listing with this flavour, a listing with a different flavour, then you have more chance to get found, you have more chance to use different keywords. You don't have to be stuck trying to put everything into one listing. And that's another thing that Etsy is mentioning several times. It's something we've spoke about. Titles. Now, they're mentioning it in terms of buyer experience, that buyers prefer to see short titles, not these long ones that sound like you're a seller from Wish. Not something that says, baby beanie hat, purple baby beanie hat, hat for a baby beanie hat in purple. People don't like that. I struggle to say it. And the other thing is, when you're on the search page, your titles get cut off. So you want, when people are scanning down, and people do read titles, they glance at what's there. So if it tells them what your item is before it gets cut off, then that's much better. But also, and this one's from me, not from Etsy, if your title only has 1 or 2 keywords in it, then it's more relevant. It's certainly more relevant in Google searches, and I'm betting from what I've seen in some search results, it's also more relevant on Etsy as well. Instead of trying to hit 13 different keywords in your title, it's better to focus in on the one or two that you want to actually rank for, and have 10 other listings that are trying to focus in on the other keywords. So keep your titles short. Etsy's mentioned this twice in the paper, so it's important. And also, I've been seeing this. I've been searching for certain search terms and looking at where people are ranking, and items that don't have great sales, are not brand new, don't have the best SEO, but just with short titles are ranking higher than you would expect them to. So this is very important for coming up to 2018. Get rid of your long, spammy, keyword vomit titles. How many times have I been saying that over the past couple of years? Now, one thing for me that is unclear in this paper is where Etsy says not to repeat tags. It says not to use, its example is don't use octopus art as one tag and then octopus print as another tag. Now, absolutely, if something's in your categories or your attributes, if it's already covered there that it's a pet lover's gift, you don't have to use that as a tag as well. But one thing I'm going to have to experiment with and test on is they're saying not to use octopus art, octopus print, repeating like this. However, they do say that exact match gives you a boost in your relevance. So I'm thinking probably this still does give you a wee boost. It's not going to be ignored. So I'm going to have to experiment with this with some different listings to see if really you don't want to be using even the octopus word several times, if in each listing you would have to think of different terms for like sea life and I don't know, other things like that, rather than saying octopus a ton of times. So we'll see how that pans out in the future. That seems a little bit misleading, and I'll be speaking to some SEO experts in the future about that. I hope this has tied together some of the most important factors. Basically, don't panic, don't knee-jerk change things. Keep this in mind. Experiment. Look at what's working with your listings and what isn't. Consider more listings, consider a range of prices so people have a choice of what they can buy. Consider grouping listings together, consider free shipping. Also, get those titles shorter. But overall, don't panic. This paper has come out to help us. It's great. It's explaining SEO and what Etsy's doing in more detail. It's fantastic. So, I'm Pam Duthie. I'm here to help you craft your career with creative marketing and artistic inspiration, and I'll be back with more Etsy tips soon. Thank you so much.